The innovation and research that's needed. There's R&D research that's needed. There's also new business models and new ways of actually bringing this to marketplace. What's very important is that we need to educate and train our workforce. The unique needs of these businesses require training and education, and we need to move forward on a national level. So just to summarize, is that service robotics is growing jobs in the United States. Just as mentioned before, in the computer industry, we're going to create all kinds of brand new service applications, service jobs. These are very sticky, high-paying jobs, and that this is going to produce a real boost to our economy as we're going to be able to export this information and really increase employee productivity over the long run. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Eric. Excuse me. And Dan and Rodney, 3 excellent presentations. Manufacturing, medical robotics, service robots. These are areas in which there has already been great progress, as you saw, some successes, some companies that we can all be very, very proud of, especially if they're in this country. But I hope you got a strong sense and understanding that, in a sense, we've just scratched the surface in terms of the capabilities and the potential. In addition, there's some compelling shifts in the nature of our workforce, makeup of this population, and challenges for the future where robotics can provide an answer. Robotics has a very important role to play both in prosperity in this country and quality of life for people who live here. We need to take the next step. And Henrik, I invite you back up here to summarize the key recommendations that the roadmap offers. Henrik?
Thanks, Darren. And actually, I would like my colleagues to join me up here for this, as we basically developed a set of recommendations, which is not just mine, it's sort of across the entire set of people that have been involved. So I wanted to join me up here in saying that these are our joint recommendations. And there is a one-page summary outside on the table, which is basically the summary of what are our recommendations. It's a separate sheet from the overall report. So we feel that it's very important that we actually try to not only sort of informally but more formally try to recognize the true potential of the near-term growth, both economically and in terms of security applications. We also really try to identify robotics as a top R&D priority because it is a game changer. It is something that can really change how we are doing these things. How would we go about this? Our recommendation is that it would make sense to form an interagency working group on robotics technology under the National Science and Technology Council. This is a model that's been used in nano before, so it's a well-known model that has been very effective of making sure there is no single agency today that really owns robotics. It is deeply embedded in several different agencies, and it would make sense to have such an interagency working group. What we would like to see is actually that the interagency working group on robotics technology would develop a plan for a national initiative in robotics, science and technology to be discussed with PCAST and with OSTP to make sure that it has that kind of breadth and it has sort of the right kind of impact. And we feel as component to a plan, we would like to see discussing where is the support for or how can we arrange for support for the world-class R&D across the number of different agencies. We have a need for basic research, we have a need for transition, we have a need for applied research. We need to make sure that all of them are in the plan so that we don't just put all eggs in one basket. We also think that it's very important to foster the transfer of technology. We can't just have it in the university labs. It's very important that we have the full value chain from basic research all the way to making real money. It's also important to sort of integrate robotics into sort of a competitiveness policy. You already heard there are a number of initiatives across the world. If we want to remain competitive, if we want to be the leaders in this field and capitalize on this, we need to make sure that we actually have it as one of our priorities. It's also very important to recognize that there are international efforts and we need to foster collaboration with these so that we can make sure that we are aware of what's happening and we can capitalize on this. Finally, we think that, of course, it's important that we have a number of competitive projects that are being funded across the different domains. Finally, as I've already mentioned, it's also important that we develop the human capital to really make this possible, because if we don't, it's not going to be sustainable in the long term. So we really also need to think about research, transfer, and education, all of them need to be sort of in an integrated strategy. I've invited 3 of my colleagues to comment on why this would be important. So I'm going to ask first Tandy Trotter from Microsoft to give some Tandy.
Thank you, Henry. It's a privilege to be here and to represent Microsoft. I feel like a relative newcomer to this industry since, and actually an invitee, since it was only about 4 or 5 years ago that many of the leaders, many of them that are in this room, actually encouraged Microsoft to become aware of what was happening in the space. And so I took that to Bill Gates, and it was very exciting because he immediately saw the amount of energy and innovation that was happening. He also observed some of the things that that were already related today, is the fact that how similar the early innovation that's are happening are very similar to the early days of the PC and what a potential that's had in terms of our lives. And so Microsoft has already started to make investments itself in terms of this area, even though we're relatively newcomers as with respect to some of the players that are here, in terms of investing in STEM research and even doing more to encourage development of greater software applications in this space.